charge, breach of covenant. So the prophets, especially, but not only in those two ways, really are artists. They are painters of pictures. They are image establishers that really put you in the story. And they're very creative as communicators. And they're often viewed as very unrefined. But I think that's kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of literary artistry, there's a lot of imagery, there's a lot of wordplay, there are a lot of analogies. There's just a lot of really creative work in the prophets. We tend to think of the weird object lessons in Ezekiel, as a summary of the thing, or the whole embody the message thing from Hosea. Hey Hosea, I got a message I want you to preach. Great, what is it? Well, actually it starts with this. Got good news for you. You're going to get married. Awesome. Got bad news for you. Your wife is a working woman. Well, that's okay. I'm not opposed to working women. Yeah, well, you're not going to feel really good about her vocational choice. Well, the good news, she works out of the home. Okay. So like some sort of an outsourced administrative job? No. No. Tough deal, man. Tough deal. But God works really powerfully and creatively through the prophets as embodiers of message, as object lesson providers, as bringers of truth to life, sometimes very literally, other times very imaginatively. They're not in the courtroom, but the prophet, through the power of language, takes the people there to where they feel like they are. They feel like they are on the defense through the power of language. It's not bland, pedestrian language. It's incredibly artistic. So don't think of the prophets as just unrefined yellers. They're much more sophisticated communicators. There's a lot of emotion in the prophets. And I think a part of what we have to think about as preachers is how do we recapture the moment and not just talk about the moment. I didn't say this in Psalms. I usually talk a lot about the idea of trying to recreate the atmosphere of the psalm and not just talk about the psalm. I don't want to just define hallelujah. I want them to say hallelujah. I don't want them to just say, I don't want them to just know it's okay to lament. I want us to collectively lament. I don't want them to just know that the Lord is faithful. I want them celebrating and praising God for his enduring covenant faithfulness. I want to try to recreate the moment and not just talk about the moment they experienced. That's a big deal to me in the Psalms. I can't believe I forgot to talk about it. Well, similarly then with the prophets, there's an atmosphere that's going on here. And how can you help people experience that atmosphere and not just talk about the ideas that are present in the text? In other words, think about it this way. If the text is designed to put people on the defense and force them to acknowledge their guilt. And everyone listening to my sermon on the prophets is comfortable, then I haven't really helped them clearly understand the text because I didn't create the environment in the text. So even the environment you create in the sermon is an interpretive decision, and it needs to be strategic and intentional. And that's hard for the prophets. Not because it's hard to do, but it's hard to receive well. And to some degree, it's hard to deliver well. So if you want to say the things that the prophets say, it's really helpful if you both love God and love people. The way the prophets do. They say hard things, but they're not just lashing out in anger. They want better things. For God's sake and for the people's sake. And the only way you can do this well is if you love both God and people the way the prophets did. Otherwise, you're just lashing out. And it's hard to preach from the prophets without just sounding like you're preaching mad. And the only way I move forward is to be the kind of mad. There's mad where you think somebody's just mad, and there's mad because you know people care. You know what I'm saying? There's just a difference between those two things. And sometimes you can tell the person's just venting. Just had a bad week. They're just ticked off. And we can call that righteous indignation. You know, well, I'm just mad at sin. But the kind of mad that works best from the prophets is the kind of mad that says, I want more for you. I want better for you. And so I think it takes spiritual preparation to really preach the prophets well. Because if by nature you are not confrontational, if by nature you are inclined toward the kind of encouragement I was talking about earlier, it'll be really hard for you to preach from this material. Or if you do, I mean, have you ever heard a preacher where every sermon they preached just felt like a Dayspring card? You know what I mean by that, right? You know, Christians, we had to come up with our own Hallmark. You know, we couldn't just give Hallmark cards. We had to put Bible verses on them, so we came up with Dayspring. And for some preachers, every sermon just feels like a Dayspring card. Doesn't matter much the text, you know. Everything is just encouraging. Just want to encourage you to do more. Just want to encourage you to do a little better. Well, I hope you can keep something of the heart for people in that and still shift the tone a little so that those prophetic texts can bite the way they bite. Yeah, we've gone on. Well, we need to take a short break. Can we take a 5-minute break just to kind of clear our heads for a minute and then try to go a half hour to noon? Yeah, let's do that. Let's take a short 5-minute break.
So is lunch gonna be around 12 or 12:30? 12.
Yeah, we'll break at 12.
No, excuse me. I've been drinking the coffee forever. Yeah, it's been here. I was like, yeah, I'm drinking like half of it. And then let's Keurig coffee, so it's a little watered down. There you go. Ow. Good thing this is a sturdy lid. I got like 2 drops on the lid. That's $7, I understand.
Professor Snow,
Yes, sir?
when you come down here to do these classes, do you get a lot of time to go and do other things too while you're here, or is this pretty much all you do while you're here?
Honestly, it depends on the trip.
Yeah.
This week, um, this week is homecoming on the Tennessee campus,
I've seen that on Facebook.
and so classes are mostly canceled,
What? That'd be great.
and
You know what's homecoming?
so,
We don't have anyone allowed to.
so I came down for the whole week.
Okay, cool.
Because the thing is, you know, I've only been at Johnson a few years. Most of the alumni, you know, they don't know me, but they're not out at homecoming, doesn't make any difference. So, sorry, I'm trying to check in for my flight home while we're on this break. So, usually I try to come down in February like this, because I can come down for the whole week
There you go.
and not have to miss my classes. So usually what I try to do is, as soonest I can get down here, after my last Thursday class, I come. If I can come on Thursday, I come on Thursday. That way I can be around on Friday to meet with students, to get to know the other faculty better. Joe Harvey and I usually have a lunch meeting to talk about congregational ministry school stuff. I get down here the earliest I can, every time I come, based on whatever my class schedule is. I try not to miss any classes there in order to come here. But outside of that, I come as soon as I can, and I stay the longest I can. And the reason I do that is, even though I just teach down here, you know, once a month in the spring semesters, and usually end up preaching in chapel once in the fall, I want to connect to students here. I want to be a part of this campus to whatever degree I can. I really view this as, even though it is kind of jump in, jump out, I don't want it to be any more that way than it has to be. So I make it a priority to get down here for a relationship. And, you know, everybody's kind of got to do what they got to do. A lot of people kind of zip back and forth. I try as hard as I can to create real space to be here and to stay here. Now, I do end up going back in time to preach on Sunday because I preach in the church. If it wasn't for that on this trip, I'd be going back Monday. Because I'd stay over the weekend, I'd, visit the churches in the area, stuff like that. But I mean, even, a couple nights ago, got together with David Peters and Leslie Gerhardt, and, we just got together, had dinner. If you don't create extra space, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. We had dinner with Mark and Vicky Zeese Thursday night. You don't get down early, that stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
But I can come for a longer period of time. I just buy a ticket and bring my wife so that she can get to know the campus here, get to know people here, start to form some connections that way. So that's not exactly how you were asking the question, but I really believe that's really, really important. Then I did take some time on Thursday during the day